Hash Rate is sponsored by Ledger. With the announcement of Ledger Flex and Ledger Stacks, Ledger gives you the best security on the planet for your crypto and identity. Ledger Flex and Stacks drive an e-ink screen with the same secure chip that's in your credit card and passport, except instead of protecting the secrets of banks and governments, Ledger protects your secrets and your private keys. Ledger supports Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and more than 200 other tokens. The secure touchscreen, plus the Ledger Live app, means that whether you're buying your very first Bitcoin or doing your 2000th swap, you can do it securely and easily with your Ledger. And as always, use my link, shop.ledger.com/hashrate in the show notes to get the very best price whenever you buy a Ledger Flex or Stacks. OpNet is the ultimate solution for deploying smart contracts directly onto the Bitcoin blockchain, leveraging its security and stability. As a meta protocol, OpNet allows you to run Ethereum-style smart contracts on any UTXO-based blockchain, including Bitcoin and Fractal Bitcoin. With OpNet, there's no need to rewrite your existing smart contracts from scratch. Simply deploy them on OpNet, and you're live on Bitcoin or Fractal with no modifications required. Start your journey on OpNet today by visiting opnet.org. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a spontaneous edition of Hash Rate. With me is my good friend Shizzy of Ordinal Revolution Podcast. Hello, Shizzy.
Hey, what's up, Mark? Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show on such short notice. Completely appreciate that. So this past week been pretty interesting. You've been up for, for like 72 hours or something crazy. You spent Sunday, and it's Monday while we're recording this, but you spent Sunday up for 8 hours broadcasting the launch of Fractal's BRC20 tokens. And Francis Dune of Francis Dune Uncensored was on there with you as well. So it was a very exciting, very fast-paced show because we all know, Francis likes to talk very fast. And if he talks and I was on for a little bit, but, Francis, I'm sort of a slower thinky kind of guy where Francis is just like a machine gun, right? So it takes me I'm always like buffering while Francis is talking. So I can't even imagine what it was like for you because you'd been up for so long. But why don't you give us sort of an overview of the Fractal launch and kind of what's happened between when Fractal launched, I guess like a week ago now, and all the way up through the BRC20 launch on Sunday.
Yeah, no problem. So it started about a week ago from Sunday. Fractal mainnet launched. It was awesome. Everyone was excited for it. Couldn't do anything, right? So that was the first night. I waited. I thought I was going to be able to mint stuff.
No, you couldn't do anything. You mean it was like the chain launched, but the functionality on top of the chain hadn't launched yet. So you couldn't do BRC20s. You couldn't do runes or whatever. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, so it was just the block started. The first block happened. It was like 50 FB. The second block happened, and it was like 105. It was like the pre-mine, right? So the whole pre-mine went out in the second block. So we're watching that. It was cool. And then block 3 happened, and then it was 25 FB, which is every block now is 25 FB. And then it was nothing. It was then it was just rolling, right? It was just going on. And nothing was happening. We're sitting there watching it, and it's just nothing to do, right? So it was cool. The next day, Monday, I get to do my show, and then after my show, I get off, and everyone's saying, "Hey, there's a token minting on Fractal." I'm like, "How's that even possible?" Like,
because we knew BRC20s were going to be enabled on Sunday, but nothing was supposed to happen in the interim week. We all thought like it was going to be a dead week, basically, right? Yep. Okay, so go ahead. Just want to clarify.
So to your point. They came out and they said way before notice, they said the indexer is going to start on block 21,000. So you'll be able to do your BRC20s. You'll be able to do your inscriptions. And then on block 84,000, you'll be able to do your runes. So that's still 2 weeks away from today. So we still have a little bit for that anyway. So, which is normal. And then, one day after it launched, a protocol called Flux came out, and it was a fork of Pipe. I don't know if the guys want to admit it or not, but Benny's team came out and said, "Yo, like, what's going on with this? Like, we have an MIT license on Pipe. You can't just do that." The guys, I don't know if they cared or not, but the guys from Inscribe 3, they just kind of put it on Fractal, and they had a token standard, the first token standard. They actually front ran Unisat, which is pretty nice.
Right. So, okay. So just to clarify this, because I think there's there might be some people who are not following. So I've had Benny on the show. I know who you're talking about. BRC20s came out on the Bitcoin blockchain, and they relied on indexing. Even though all the information for BRC20s, who has what coins, who sent what coin to who first, the minting of it, the deployment of it, all that stuff is on the Bitcoin blockchain. But to interpret that log file, you need indexers. Along comes Benny and he says, well, these indexers are centralized. We can't really rely on them. We should create decentralized indexers. And so that idea became Track, and there was a Track token. And then along comes Pipe. He also said, I'm launching a thing called Pipe. What is Pipe? What was that? Because that's different from Track.
Yeah. So before that, though, there was Track, which is, you're right, the indexer. And then he came out with a protocol called Tap protocol. And that's basically a fork of BRC20 that can do a lot more. And when I say fork, it's just inscription-based tokens, right?
Yeah.
And then, but it's able to do a lot more airdrops and stuff like that. And then Casey came out in November and said, I want to do a token protocol of a fungible standard, call it Runes. And when he was doing that, he was smoking a pipe. Benny thought that was hilarious, went and took the name, and then created his protocol, which was basically a fork of it's all colored coins, right, from 2013. Atomicals did it first. Casey saw that. He said, I'm going to do Runes. And Benny saw that, and Benny said, I'm going to do Pipe. So it's like one after another.
So
but
Benny stole from Casey. Benny stole from Casey, to be clear, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Casey stole from Atomicals. Atomicals stole from colored coins.
Yes,
right?
Got it. So a lot of stealing going on here. Yep.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, but it's that's just our ecosystem, right? Everyone's just trying to do something and then make it better.
Great artists steal, but it's the way of the world. Yep. So go ahead, continue, because I know the story keeps going.
Yeah. So these guys they have a Pipe marketplace. The mScribe guys, not mScribe, Inscribe 3, they have a marketplace for Pipe tokens, which was awesome because back then you really couldn't do anything with Pipe. You could just mint it and that's it. But these guys went and created this awesome marketplace. You were able to buy and sell and mint from there. It was really good, Inscribe 3. So then, so now we have Fractal, and they front run Unisat with their own protocol, forked from Pipe, and they dropped Flux. It minted out in like an hour. Everyone was going nuts for it, and they had others. You can go and you create your own token on there as well.
Right? And Flux is what? The Flux is like sort of the Ordi of that ecosystem.
I think it's more than that. I think it's like that. It's like the governance token.
Okay, so it's functional. It actually has functionality. It's not just a meme coin the way Ordi was for BRC20s.
Yeah. Well, when you say functionality, it just represents the team, right? I don't know if it can do anything. You know what I mean?
Are they thinking about making it do something in the future? If they said like down the road, we're gonna give governance, voting rights to whoever owns these tokens, or is it just assumed that might happen?
Well, they came out today actually, and they said we're gonna enable OpCat programmability in these tokens. So that's
so we anticipate. We don't know for sure, but it's suggested anyway that there will be some functionality. Okay, so go ahead. So basically, before BRC20's launch by Unisat on Fractal Bitcoin, these other protocols are launching their own coin protocols in advance of that, front running, basically being the first token protocols to launch on Fractal. And Fractal, you can only imagine what Fractal's saying. Wait, what are all these things launching on our blockchain that we didn't plan for, right? So they must be like a little wigged out by this, right? I would think. I mean, we're not talking to them, but that's what it seems like to me.
In a way, if I was them, I'd be like, cool. Because like you don't want to look centralized, you want to look permissionless. Like,
that's true.
Do whatever you want. So to them, it's not a big deal. Just don't destroy our chain before the miners get started, right? Because that's what this block 21,000 is kind of get all the miners online before the congestion starts to happen, right?
Yep.
So I think that was the point. All right, so that happened. After a few hours after Flux launched, it kind of got boring. People were minting some of the coins, but nothing really happened. So we all put our waiting hats back on, and like, okay, block 21,000 is coming, and we knew that was going to happen pretty much the weekend. We didn't know exactly when because it's 30-second blocks, but some blocks are longer than.
We knew generally Sunday though, probably, but yeah,
for sure. So then we're waiting again. Wednesday or Thursday pop up, and all of a sudden another token standards pop up. This one's called Cat 20s, and they have another protocol with that called Cat. What's it? 721, right? Just like the ERC 721. This is Cat 721, which is the inscription bit. Not the inscription, the NFTs. Of the Cat 20. So that was pretty cool. So all that was coming out at once. I was like, what is this? You still can't do anything with Cat 721, but the first token for the Cat 20 protocol was called Cat. And the only way you could do this was if you had a miner, right?
By do this, you mean mint it. So you can so basically with BRC20, just for the following along at home, for the kids following along at home, when BRC20s first launched, they launched on Unisat, and when Ordi first was launched on Unisat, anybody could mint it. It was an open mint, and there was an interface that they provided to you, web interface, so you didn't have to know mining or anything like that. You could just use the web interface and mint Ordi using a little bit of Bitcoin as gas. But now with this new Cat 20 protocol, the new Cat token, when it first came out, it was also available as a free mint, but there was a twist. You could only mint it if you were running a full node of Fractal. That's the only people it was available to. So if you didn't know your way around mining or running a full node, you could not mint it, which is a bummer because that's the cheapest the coin will ever be, theoretically, right? So anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah, at this time, sats for sats per VByte was like 3, right? So it was the cheapest. It was cheapest time. I think right now it's like 58, but it got all the way up to about 8,000 yesterday, just for context, right? Okay. So it was pretty crazy. So, but it was like 3. So the early guys were minting it super early. I'm thinking it was the team, which is fine because it was their token, but it was probably more people getting online like, what is this, right? So it was like 50% was done. And then so thankful for DotSwap. They actually have a tool for us, people who are not running a node. And that came out on Friday. They reached out to me personally and was like, yo, we're going to have this ready. So just kind of let everyone know. So I was like, all right.
So cool. DotSwap did us all a favor. Basically, they looked at little poor helpless mortals like you and me who don't run full nodes. And they said, oh, that sucks for you guys, but we're going to help you out. So they actually provided the web interface. They ran the full node, and then they provided a web interface to us. We supplied the Bitcoin as gas, and they would use their full node to go mint it for us and then return it to our wallets, the cat token. So we now had a way to get in, like sort of halfway through. So 50%, and then everyone else was finally allowed to mint. That's when the sats per VByte went to 500, 1,500, 1,800. So we were all paying a lot more than everyone else, which that's what happens when everyone can play, right? It gets expensive because everyone wants it. So we're all minting. The interface that's what I put out. It was tools.mintpool.com. It was easy to access. You just do it, but they were minting everything for you. So one thing I did want to say is for the Cat 20 protocol, there's no indexers involved. Just like you said with BRC20s, everything's ran through the miners, just like ERC20s, right? So that's like the best part. So that is absolutely fascinating to me. And do you and I think that's actually a very major step forward. So the problem Benny was trying to solve with Track for BRC20s, that problem just does not exist in Cat 20s. Yeah. And it was born with the indexer baked into the miners, which is how Ethereum ERC20s work, and probably the way it should have always worked. Now, do you know how they did that? Is it because Opcat is enabled on Fractal? Does it rely on Opcat?
Yeah, it's 100%. It's an Opcat token, right?
Okay, right.
Without Opcat, it doesn't
couldn't exist. So because Opcat was enabled, which enables Turing complete smart contracts on Bitcoin and thus Fractal. It's only enabled on Fractal. It's not enabled on the Bitcoin main chain. But because it's on Fractal, that makes Cat 20 protocol possible and makes it possible for the miners to index the coin without relying on external. So this is a huge leap forward, I think, right? Yes?
Yeah, this is monster leap forward. This changes everything, especially for Fractal. That really it kind of took the weighting out of BRC20s because it was like, I don't want them anymore. Right.
Because BRC20s are inferior to this.
Yes. Yep.
Like by a quantum leap. Yeah. Yep. That's what I think too.
It was kind of like, what's the point at that point? And now it's like, get as much cat as you can. And then, because after after the cat minute out, it was like, okay, what's next? And there's Kitty Cash and there's all the other ones that pop up. And it's like, I don't want to play that game right now, right? I just want the Cat 20s, and then, I just want the cat of the Cat 20s, and then just kind of wait around and see who wins before you start digging into the other ones. That's just how I play. I don't want to. I mean, I'll throw small money, just kind of like lottery tickets, but I don't go hard. I went hard into the Cat token as soon as I was able to, as much as I possibly could. So.
Yeah, good for you. I went into it medium, I would say. So I did mint some, and I did use the DotSwap minter. I didn't have a lot of Fractal Bitcoin in hand. I had to figure out how to get it, and then luckily, there was some on DotSwap, so I was able to sort of go that direction. I tried getting it another way, and I used a centralized exchange where it just got gummed up, unfortunately. So that sort of slowed me down, but it's okay. I still got a goodly amount of cat, so I'm happy. We'll see where it goes. But I think you're right. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I use that centralized exchange too, and I just got fun stuck in there because
that's what happened to me. Yeah, I'm not going to say who it was.
Crapped out on me. I don't know if we're allowed to say that or not, but
I don't know either. But we'll just leave it at that. But yes, we both use a centralized exchange. So So you got bricked as well over there. I was kind of like, okay. So
I got like $2,000 stuck in there right now.
I have a little bit more. It's not much more, but it's enough. It's enough to make me just be a little irritated. But whatever. I was able to actually go in pretty hard eventually using dot swap.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say how much, but I actually grabbed a bunch of Fractal Bitcoin, which I think was a good idea. I mean, we'll see, but it seems like a good idea still. So, So Fractal. So BRC20's launched, and what is my impression of it was sort of a non-event, which was not what I expected. I expected that to sort of be a much bigger event, but it became a non-event because of the Cat 20 protocol. You were there for all 8 hours of it. It was sort of a fizzle. Was your impression as well?
Yeah, definitely. So it's first started, let's just say like Block 20,000 started. I went live like 20 minutes before it started, so I was ready for it. My friend Matty Verse, he's big around the space. He came on with me. He's actually stayed for like 3 hours with me. So he tapped out around 3 hours. Said he had errands to run. But before that, so we started minting. So one of the first tokens was Dragon. Right, it was that because now now on BRC20s, originally it was four-letter tickers only, and then they started with 5 when pizza dropped. So now on Fractal you can do 6 to 12. So you have a range of tickers now that you can play with. So we got some fun stuff finally. We got Dragon and Hustle and Cherry and Burger, right? So it was just it's just meme coin fun. Again, I wasn't throwing a lot of money. I was throwing like 0.1 at an FB for some mints and stuff. So, but that's the thing. So on Bitcoin, when you mint 100 mints, it's enough to satisfy you. Right, it's enough to be like, okay, I spent like 0.3 on this, like I'm good, or like 0.15. It's a big number. On Fractal, you're spending 0.1 of a Fractal token, which is $30 at the time. So it wasn't much at all. So you had to keep going, right? You had to keep minting using Unisat. And one thing I learned about Unisat was they were charging you up to 30 to 40% service fee.
Oh, really?
OKX was charging you 0. And was like,
that's a big difference.
That was a huge difference. So once I learned that, obviously I had to run over to OKX and just started using that. But originally we were using Unisat and stuff like that. But like it wasn't adding up because people were getting a lot more than me. I was like, how are you getting that much more? Oh, I used OKX. I was like, what the hell? I'm paying.
Why do you think there was a differential? So for people that don't understand, so Unisat provides a front end web service to the Fractal blockchain. But that doesn't mean somebody else can't build their own. And OKX has been long involved in providing services for BRC20s and Ruins and their own web interface to that stuff on the Bitcoin blockchain, the main blockchain. So when Fractal launched, they decided to provide their own web front end to the Fractal universe as well. It's permissionless. Anybody can make a front end to the Fractal blockchain and the universe, right? So they did. But I don't understand why. They weren't charging. Why is Unisat charging 30 to 40% and OKX is not? Do you know why that is?
Yeah. OKX never charges. So even with on the Bitcoin mainnet, if you go to inscribe using OKX or you go to buy, they 0 fees. They just been like that from the beginning. Yeah, they've always been like that. They're OKX. They got $1 billion exchange, right?
Yeah, they don't need it. It's like chumpy change. So they're not trying to collect a quarter every time you pass go. They're like, it's beneath us kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. So that's why.
I'm not really sure. I just think it's a way originally, I think it was a way to bring us there. Right. I was like, oh, wow. Like everyone was using Unisat. I mean, when you're minting back in, early 2023, you used Unisat. Everyone did. Right. But eventually OKX kind of took away a lot of the Chinese users because OKX is obviously, it's based out of the East and stuff like that. So, it kind of brought everyone to start using OKX. Everyone used OKX towards the end of BRC20's, the run.
Because it's Chinese language, whereas Unisat was all in English. So even though they speak English, it's just, if you're Chinese, it's a lot easier if it's in Chinese, right? Yeah. So OKX, whereas it's more difficult for us to use OKX, even though they have the English translation, you can do it. But yeah.
Well, it got easier after a while, but I just got so used to the way Unisat looked and felt when I was doing it. You just kind of get, whatever, I'll just pay the extra, whatever, So it was kind of like that a little bit. But anyway, coming back to the, BRC 20s launch, this Dragon was the first one. Everyone was shooting for it. The fees got to 8,000 sats per VByte, which is still on Fractal pretty cheap. It was still only $4 a mint. So now...
Nothing like when we were minting already on the main Bitcoin chain, because everything we were paying Bitcoin gas prices to mint things on the Bitcoin chain. It was really expensive. It ended up being worth it, but only for Ordi, probably not anything else really. So yeah.
And with Fractal, you're still paying sats per VByte. It's the same amount as you're paying for Bitcoin, but one's $30 and one's 60,000.
Yeah,
so that's
quite a bit of difference, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we're paying a fraction. It's Fractal after all, so it's fractional. So yeah, it's quite a bit less.
So we were minting Dragon. Dragon got up to like 800 holders, and then immediately came down to 500. And we were like, "What's going on with this?" That's when we realized sniper bots. Were coming for us. So if you had your tokens in a mempool and you weren't putting the gas high enough, they were taking them. And they would go in instead of minting themselves for 8,000. If you put in 2,000 and you were somehow got lucky, they stole your mint. So a lot of people, so your balance was showing up in your wallet, and then 15 minutes later it was gone. So in my chat, I had people pissed. Like, and that's the thing with BRC20s is you lose that gas. So you get nothing for it.
I know.
And you lose the gas.
Yeah, so just for those playing at home, if you don't know this, if you try to mint a coin on Bitcoin main at BRC20, just because of the way everything works, you can put your order in and spend your gas, spend your Bitcoin to get the other coins in a mint. And if someone else gets into the block before you, trying to get those same coins and they run out, right? Like the store runs out of inventory. And then you're after the top amount of coins that are available. Your gas gets taken, your Bitcoin gets taken, but you don't get the other coins. So you can lose money and get nothing. That is possible. So that happens with BRC20s. What about Cat 20s? Can it happen with Cat 20s?
Nope. Cat 20s, it does not happen. So what happened is, when you're using dot swap, and you should probably go check this yourself, you'll see a little refund button next to the ones that got refunds. So what's happening is you're using dot swap. So they're putting it in, and then they're the ones getting the refund. So they have to figure out a way to refund you. So they started the refund process. So if some of your mints got front ran for whatever reason, you got every single penny of your FB back.
Yes, which I've done. I did. And once again, massive kudos to dot swap. By far the best UI in this entire thing, including Unisat. Yeah. Like they've just been the best. And I've just been continually blown away by Lynn and his team and the dot swap product. We did a show with dot swap beforehand. And I mean, they're better than Pizza Swap by far from what we've seen so far. And then they just have been hustling to provide web interfaces to things that we want to get to. They did it for the Cat 20 Mint token, but not only that, they did it for the refunding of FB that was refunded to them from unsuccessful mints of the Cat 20 the Cat token on Cat 20. So and they didn't have to do that. They could have just been like, "Nah, we're not going to do it." But they wanted to make everyone feel good. Like the team over there and the leadership is just fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them. I will be a user of their products forever.
Yeah. And obviously, their exchange is centralized, right? But everything really in here is Bitcoin. Pizza Swap is going to be centralized, right? Like everything's going to be centralized until we get some OpCat type of stuff happening, where OpCat actually decentralizes a lot of stuff. So let's talk about that next, because I think do you have anything else to report sort of that happened, or that's pretty much it, right? Yeah. Well, that was really it. And then tokens called Burger came out, and same thing. People were minting that like crazy, got the 8,000, stuff like that. But same over and over and over, just different ticker names.
It's pretty much the same story.
Yeah.
And so now that's over. But let's talk about what's coming next, which is enhanced functionality on the Fractal chain of smart contracts. So OpCat, the command has been enabled on Fractal, which theoretically allows for Turing complete smart contracts, However, actually writing those smart contracts, you have to use the scripting language, which is very difficult for most programmers to use. It's like programming in assembly. I've said this before, as opposed to using JavaScript, which is quite a bit easier, like orders of magnitude easier, right? It's a higher level programming language. You can, in a few lines of code, do what's going to take you, giant pages of code in script or assembly language to accomplish. So there are a number of theories or a number of schools of thought on how to enable reasonable smart contracts on top of Fractal. One approach is the OpNet approach, which is we're going to reboot Ethereum. We're going to basically put an EVM chain and universe on top of Fractal. And there's a lot of debate about whether that's a great idea or not, which I'm not going to get into because we're going to talk about other things on this show. But suffice to say, it has its fans and it has its detractors. Sort of the more, I guess, raw version or the version that's probably closest to the spirit of Fractal that I've seen to date, and which runs on raw Fractal, is this thing called sCrypt, which is coming, and it basically puts a TypeScript, a JavaScript-like language on top of Opcat, and basically interprets and compiles that for you, so that you can do, a reasonable programmer can write smart contracts that are in a language like the EVM language. It's not Solidity, but it's sort of like Solidity, meant specifically to run on Fractal. It won't run on Bitcoin proper because Opcat's not enabled on Bitcoin proper, but it will run on Fractal. So far, so good?
Yeah, perfect.
And what do you think of, what do we know of sCrypt? I know that Francis Stone Uncensored has been talking a lot about it, right? He's pretty bullish on it. He likes the people behind it. And he says that, that will enable things like Aave on Fractal, Uniswap on Fractal. DotSwap will be able to do a fully decentralized version of an AMM using sCrypt. Is that what you're hearing? And what are you hearing that's coming?
Yeah. First off, I was gonna say I love Francis, dude. That's my guy.
I do.
He's the best. He's the best. But yeah, he's been really, obviously we know now that he's doing Sats Pump Fun, right? And once I heard about Sats Pump Fun, I was one of the first people to come out and say they're not going to do this with BRC20s. Like, it's not possible. Like, it's not. There's something else, right? We just didn't know what that something else was.
So Francis knew a secret he wasn't telling us all for a little while.
Well, I don't want to put that. I don't want to put that as well. But I feel like he had an idea what was coming. So
just a little note on Francis. Francis has been on top of this shit. Like he's like, it's tomorrow's news today, and it is. Like he actually lives up to the hype. I learn shit from Francis all the time. I have the little bell on, so anytime he tweets, I want to see what he's saying, right? So I can get there early. So that dude has just been on top of shit, just like Jack Lew has been on top of shit too. Yeah, right. Jack Lew is a bit of a controversial figure. We're going to have him on Hash Rate at the end of this week, by the way, to discuss BAMP and what's going on with NUSD. But there's some people who love him, some people who hate him. But it is absolutely uncontested that there is a brilliance to him. And that he has been very early to a lot of things, right? Yeah. He was in early on Ordi. There are a number of calls that he made that were absolutely correct. So love him or hate him, he's also an early guy.
And that's the thing about Jack Lew is I hated him on Twitter, hated him. But then meeting him in person, he came on our show. I love the guy. I mean, he's phenomenal, right? So it's like two different people. Like it's really wild after actually meeting him in person. Well, online, but it was still really cool to have him on our show. And I was just like, you know what, dude, like you kind of get an idea. It's really hard to tell what someone's personality is between reading Twitter, right? You just think they're trying to always come off as like a smart aleck, or like, an a-hole for other words. But he just seems like a really, really in touch guy. He just seems like to really believe in what he believes in. So
he does. There is a genius to him. There's a side to him that is questionable. I think we all have to say that because he says some things that sound crazy sometimes, right? Yeah. But sometimes the smartest people say crazy sounding things sometimes, right? So it's hard to figure out whether he's a genius or not, right? Yeah. And it's a fine line between stupid and clever, as Spinal Tap said, right? It is a fine line. There's sort of two sides of one coin, right? So, but I'm mostly a fan of what he's up to, and I mostly agree with what he's doing. So it's kind of where I come out.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, so it feels like the sCrypt thing or sCrypt is going to enable a large, basically a large number of DeFi protocols, and meme protocols like Sats Pump.fun,
Yep.
which we now know Francis Dune is behind. He's the founder. And I did notice that an advisor to them was Jack. So
Yeah.
Jack's in there to a certain degree as well.
Yeah,
and I know that. Yeah, so
not only Jack, it's someone from Water Drip Capital, and then you have the guy, the sCrypt guy himself, also
Oh, wow.
as an advisor. Yeah. So.
Okay, so sort of the full Hall of Justice, as it were. Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. The full milieu. So so what do we? So the Fractal launch is over. The BRC-20 launch is over. Fractal prices dipped a little bit. Pizza hasn't done anything because we don't really know whether that ever had a purpose. We thought maybe it would have a purpose in the Fractal verse, but it appears to not have any purpose at the moment that anyone can discern. So Fractal's down, Pizza's down. What comes next? Have they made any announcements, or are we just sort of waiting still?
I think we're waiting, but I think it was Ordle's Wallet put out a tweet today. I don't remember on the top of my head. It said they just got off a phone call with sCrypt, and what's coming next is going to shock everyone, right? So
really?
So this is Ordle's Wallet saying that. So now you got off the phone with sCrypt. sCrypt is the guy he's from BSV. Binance, what is it? Not BSV. Satoshi's Vision, Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision.
Yeah, BSV.
And it's everything like that. Yeah, BSV. Yeah. So
let's talk about. Go ahead. So you think so? Basically, Ordinal's Wallet. What is sort of the background of those guys? Because I get mixed up. Who's who? Who are they? Where'd they come from?
They came from the Satoshi's Vision. Just like everyone else, just like Unisat, just like DotSwap, just like they were all over there. And when Ordinals opened up, they were the first ones to jump in it early January. Ordinals Wallet was one of the first wallets. I think it was one of the first marketplaces as well. With Unisat. So, I mean, these guys were all ready for this. They just needed Casey to come out with Ordinals. And then they really got started with it because they were all building with UTXOs. And a lot of people build with EVM and, Rust and stuff like that. But these guys were, they were all ready. They are skilled, right? So they were all ready for what came next in January 2023.
Yeah. So the background is, and let's explain the whole BSV phenomenon for those who don't know. So BSV stands for Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. It's a fork of Bitcoin by Craig Wright, which is sort of what makes it good and bad, right? Craig Wright is a controversial figure because he claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto. However, only the true Satoshi could move Genesis block coin. Kind of like, only King Arthur could withdraw Excalibur from the stone, kind of like that. And every time if people said, well, prove it, go pull Excalibur from the stone. And Satoshi, Craig Wright would say, okay, I'm about to do it. And he'd get right up to the sword and be like, no, I can't do it today for some reason, because the moon is in the 5th house of Capricorn. So I can't, but tomorrow I'll definitely do it. And this kept happening. So people started to suspect that he was not Satoshi Nakamoto. And in fact, he's lost court cases to that effect. So that sort of tarnished BSV and took away from the fact that BSV, the chain, the technology, actually had a really lot of great ideas in it, right? It had a very big block size. It had OpCat enabled. I don't know if it has any other commands enabled, but it is sort of a next generation version of Bitcoin, a better Bitcoin, and it works better. And there's a great brain trust of people who are like, this is the better Bitcoin. And the market did not agree with them. So it's sort of like, you're a little younger than I am, but I remember a computer called the Amiga that was just awesome and was definitely better than everything else that was out there, including PCs, including Macs. And there was a cult of Amiga where they're like, we're right, our computers are better. And they were right, but the market did not give a shit because it just didn't have any adoption. Yeah. The market was elsewhere. And that's sort of what's happened to BSV. Now, as ordinals and BRC-20s and more advanced Bitcoin things come along, a lot of the BSV people, the faithful, the engineers, the people who invested their life and blood in that universe, are now transplanting themselves into this movement on Bitcoin, Fractal, as well as BRC-20s and Ruins. That experience and those ideas are very applicable to these new ideas for scaling Bitcoin proper. So a lot of those people and ideas are moving over. Jack comes out of that universe, Jack Liu. He's he's freakishly still in love with BSV, which I don't understand. But once in the cult, I guess you never leave, right? It's that kind of thing. So yeah. So that anything to add to that, Shizzy?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you covered it good. Yeah. So they were all on BSV. They thought it was the only thing that suffered with BSV was security. Right. So everyone, all the maxis, the Max Kaiser of the world, they just want their shiny rock to stay shiny. Right. They don't want no functionality with it. They just want to keep it over there. These other guys wanted to do, put, basically all the markets on chain, and they wanted to do it on Bitcoin. And, the maxis disagreed with that. They want security first. So that's why it's split, but yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah. Okay. So the script stuff is coming. And so you said that the guy who is behind, or the guy who's behind Ordinal Walls, or the team, said something shocking is coming from sCrypt and Fractal. Do we have a time frame for this? Is it this
nothing
week?
Really? And that's the whole thing.
Everything's
just kind of like it's all coming, right? So we just don't know right now. I mean, we just found out a way today. A buddy of mine, Rocket Dog, he actually he figured out a way to actually send these cat tokens now. So that's how early we are with this. We're not only can you mint them, but now I can send them to you. So we're still in the very early process of this. And saying anything right now is just completely guessing, right? So.
Right. So what about buying and selling cat tokens? Is there a market for it other than over the counter on Discord? That's it, right?
That's it. And Francis today came out and said that there's going to be a swap before there's a marketplace, he thinks. So he thinks that these guys have something ready. They're going to be putting out a liquidity pool type of swap, the decentralized swapping mechanism for the cat tokens. It's all speculation, right? So I'm hoping for this. It would be absolutely amazing. It would give me something to really, really play with. So I'll be again, but it's all speculation.
Yeah, if they came out with a decentralized swap for Cat 20 tokens, starting with Cat, well, I guess there's more than one now, so they could actually have a fully decentralized AMM for Cat 20 tokens using sCrypt on Fractal.
Yeah,
if that's what they're talking about, that will indeed blow socks off. Because that'll be the first time we've seen that. Yeah, that'll be pretty amazing. Now, the piece of Fractal to me that seems to be missing the most is there is no bridge between Bitcoin and Fractal. Even though Fractal is supposed to be a Bitcoin layer 2, there is no way to sort of move Bitcoin to Fractal. Other than, you can swap on .swap, but that's kind of it. Right. So that's like a cross-chain swap that they've enabled. But in the documents for Fractal, they talk about something called the elevator. And the elevator is supposed to be a cross-chain bridge between Bitcoin and the main Fractal chain, but also sub-Fractal chains. So fractals of fractals. And that's why they call it an elevator, because the coins are sort of moving up and down through these layers of chains. What's going on with that? Have you heard anything about the elevator or any sort of bridge? Or is that sort of...
So I heard about the OpCat to OpCat bridge. So once, it's a wish, but if Bitcoin gets OpCat, these coins are going to be able to kind of go from one to the other without wrapping, right? With no wrapping. So you're going to be able to take Bitcoin, put it on OpCat, take, Cat, put it on Bitcoin. So it's just going to go from, one chain to the other pretty easily. It's going to enable atomic swaps, stuff like that. But right now, I'm just hearing of, wrapping, kind of similar to what Merlin does. Merlin is a side chain to Bitcoin as well. You can take your node monkey and you can send it to them, and they give you a ERC 721 that represents what they have in their wallet, right? A wrapping, just like how you wrap Bitcoin. So right now, I'm just hearing about wrapping technology, really. So the elevator stuff sounds really fascinating, but I really need to see how it works before. To me, it just sounds like you're just going to kind of wrap it a few times, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know, and I don't know whether. So I've had other conversations with other parties not affiliated with Fractal, but other Bitcoin layer 2 technologies, and they tell me that the best way to do a bridge is not the way it's been done in the Ethereum universe, where you basically have a bridge on one side that's a pool, right, where all the tokens are sort of on that side are, imagine a pool of Ethereum locked here in a smart contract, but then over on the other side they issue new wrapped Ethereum tokens. But if this pool gets drained, right, if all you need is one private key to get into here, and you can drain the entire smart contract, and then all your wrap tokens are no longer backed, which is famously what happened to Phantom with the multi-chain hack, right?
Yeah.
So that destroyed their entire ecosystem. A couple of years ago at this point, so in the rear view mirror, but that was a catastrophic event. And so the way it would be done on Bitcoin is each wallet would, I'm not sure what it uses. It's sort of like partially signed Bitcoin transactions or something, actually locks their own amount in like a tiny vault, but it's individualized. So our coins on the Bitcoin side, you and I would each have it locked in a different vault. So if somebody got into my vault, they might be able to drain my vault, but they wouldn't be able to drain everybody's, right? So the bridges, it's a lot harder to sort of drain the entire bridge's assets. But then on the other side, you would be issuing, essentially wrap tokens. So it's not materially different on the other side. But the security is a lot better because it's segmented much more precisely, in that way, right? So it's not pooled. Much easier, much harder to get all of it. So, and I've heard Jack talk about this with respect to something else, and I don't want to get into right now because he's going to talk more about it later this week. But I do think that is a better way to do it. My understanding is that is a technology that the elevator uses, but we haven't seen it yet. But I do think that in order to make remember that Fractal is supposed to be the world's best, most Bitcoin friendly layer 2 for Bitcoin. That's its purpose in life, is as a Bitcoin layer 2. And yet there is no way to go between Bitcoin and this layer 2. Other attempts at Bitcoin layer 2s like Merlin, like there is a bridge, right? We know how we get things on and off Merlin and back onto the Bitcoin chain. There are other things which I'm not at liberty to discuss, which are coming, which have done a much, much, much better job at the bridging. So far, Fractal has not done a good job at the bridging, and that concerns me a little bit. I think they need to. That's a piece that has to get. That we need to see that piece sometime soon. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree, and Udi really thinks we're going to get Opcat on Bitcoin, and if we do, that changes everything, right?
But how soon do you think that'll happen? Because getting Opcat, I don't think Opcat being approved on Bitcoin is going to happen. I don't think Fractal should depend on that.
Yeah.
And I think Fractal's actually in a stronger position because you'll have to go over there to use Opcat, right? So the longer Bitcoin goes without Opcat, which I think is going to go, it's at least a year, right? Because getting anything enabled on Bitcoin, you're going to have the Max Kaisers of the world fighting that tooth and nail. They don't want that. They want their shiny bricks, and that's it. And I kind of understand that. You shouldn't F around with the main Bitcoin chain. There's no reason to if we have really good layer 2s.
Yeah.
So what do you
100%.
think?
Yeah, well, and you're right too. Like, think about Larry Fink. Do you think he wants something to go wrong with his chain right now? Not at all. There's no way he's going to allow that. If he even understands that it's going to happen. BlackRock is like they want their shiny rocks, and that's it. It's been working for over 16 years. They want to keep it that way. It's never been hacked, right? They want to keep it that way. So a couple months ago, I was in the camp of saying, it'll never happen. But now guys like Dan Held and guys like Udi and these guys are saying like it could be possible. Like they really think Bitcoin Core is leaning towards that way. Because you have to remember, right? At Bitcoin, the year 2041, there's no more Bitcoin coming out. So the miners are going to depend on fees, right? So
Dude, 2141. How far away?
41.
Yeah, so that's 110 years from now.
Exactly.
So we don't really need to solve that problem right now. It's not really high on my agenda, just saying.
but that's always a thinking about it, right? So having something like Opcat, which will allow swaps on chain and stuff like that, which will give the miners really, really big incentive to keep mining, right? To keep those miners on all the time. So that's kind of what Udi and Dan Held and stuff are kind of pushing. And, Dan Held, he's, Bitcoiner probably a little as long as you. Right. So these guys,
he's longer than me, but yes. Yeah.
So these guys are saying it's possible. That's what kind of changed my thought process. Cause I was in the camp of it will never happen. No chance. Larry Fink's in there. No chance. But I don't know. Udi's very convincing.
Even Bitcoin Core is like trying to push through, reforms at the Vatican. It's like, well, we have to have 5 meetings and consult the book of reforms and, or like Ents, right? Where it's like, we have just agreed that you are not orcs. Right, like it's everything just moves incredibly, incredibly slowly, and but you're telling me that the Ents are moving. They're starting to jog a little bit now, strangely. But I think the reason why, I think you're right, that it is about supporting the miners, because never mind 110 years from now.
Yeah.
Right now, basically the profitability of the miners is in jeopardy, or will be soon, just because of the trade off between the energy costs and the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin should be a lot higher right now. Like if the price of Bitcoin was like 150K, which it should be, I think, minus a bunch of dumping from government entities. I think it's artificially sort of pushed down from a number of factors. Mt. Gox. There's a lot of things that sort of are artificially smashing it down, because it's not
accumulation, right?
Yes, Wyckoff accumulation. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So those things are, so Bitcoin price is below what it should be right now. So it's harder for the miners to stay afloat with the increasing hash rate and thus the accompanying increasing price of electricity and whatever else to manufacture Bitcoin. So I think that's why you're seeing the grand councils of the Bitcoin chain, Star Chamber start to say, well, maybe we should enable these things. Right. So,
and can't remember too, hash power has never been higher. We're at an all-time high every single day. So
yeah, it's amazing that that's not dropping in this, especially given the economic climate. It keeps going up.
Yeah.
So,
and energy is just getting more expensive, right? Because the dollar is getting less valued, right? So energy is more and more expensive. So it's like these guys, they're thinking for the future, right? They know Bitcoin's price is held down, so
because they're operating at a loss. Right, in a lot of cases, right? So they're just saying, "Fuck it, we don't care," because eventually Bitcoin is going to be $1 million a coin, or that's what their thoughts are, right?
Yeah.
So
and they're able, first time ever, they're able to sell stock to pay their electric bill instead of selling their Bitcoin, right? So some of the bigger miners like Riot and Mara and some of the other ones. So that's I think that's happening as well. They're able to keep the lights on different ways now.
Yeah, no doubt. So trying to think what else we have left to discuss. I mean, we may have run out of gas here, so to speak. But I think,
I mean, that was
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all speculation now because you have to, going back to the very first beginning of our conversation. The Flux guys are enabling Opcat into their pipe protocol, right?
Yeah.
So you don't know what's going to happen with that, or even if that's possible, or how these devs are even how experienced they are. And then you have like Cat 20s, and you have to remember now you could potentially do something maybe with BRC 20s with Opcat. So there's so many different types of events that could come in the future. It's just one of those things where I'm staying tuned, right? Like I cover in my show the entire ordinal ecosystem, and that's part of it, right? And it's exciting, it's new, and it's something to finally, like, it's been 6 months of down, right? Especially with runes, so it's nice to have something to at least look forward to. Yeah.
So overall impression after a couple of weeks ago, there were still a lot of cards to flip over. We didn't know what the deal with Pizza was. We didn't know what the deal with Pizza Swap was. We didn't know what the deal with BRC 20s was going to be. Now a lot of those cards have been flipped over. What do you think now? What's your just sort of overall impression with Fractal? Is this the future, or was it a flop?
No, I don't think it was a flop at all. I just think it's the week 2 of the process, right? So I just think that it's doing amazing for week 2. And my experience trading over there, it hasn't been a lot, but 30-second blocks, it's phenomenal, right?
Yeah, that is pretty amazing.
I can send you FB and you'll be like, oh wow, I got it. Like as soon as I hit send. Like it's pretty amazing. I mean, I think I had to wait 45 seconds and I was like, what's going on? Right. So it was just like, but on Bitcoin, the other night I sent Bitcoin from one wallet to another and it was like 45 minutes. It was almost an hour. And I was like, oh, and that was actually after playing on Opcat a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. So, right.
I forgot about this bullshit. Yeah.
I think in the future, Bitcoin is going to be for your ordinals. I think your ordinals only, and all the fungible stuff is going to take place on Fractal. And let's just say you're done degenning for a little while. You're like, I just want to go put my coins back in the hard wallet. I'll get back on Bitcoin, the security network of Bitcoin, and I can use that. But then when I'm ready to degen again, I can send those coins back through some type of bridge, whether it's the elevator, Opcat bridge, wrapping mechanism, something, and then to play again, liquidity pools and borrowing and lending and probably casino type of games. Like who knows what people are going to build, right? and then bring it back to Bitcoin. So I think for me, I don't think I'll ever play with fungible tokens on Bitcoin again. And I think Runes is going to be the top fungible protocol now, but I don't think anyone's going to care about it because we're going to have the cat tokens on Fractal.
Okay. Yeah, no, I guess I'm inclined to agree with you. I think Fractal is definitely the most promising thing I've seen. It's not really Bitcoin, but it's sort of Bitcoin in the sort of Bitcoin ecosystem. It's it's a lot closer than Ethereum. So I tend to think there's massive potential here, and I think it just depends on what they do over the next 6 months, right? I think the next 6 months sort of make or break it. It's either foundational new Bitcoin technology or it's a flop. It's another BSV, right? Which the BSV guys don't want to see, right? But they are in the spotlight now. I think they're getting the attention. Things are going viral on it. Obviously, Cat was absolutely a hit. Of all the Fractal things, Cat was the biggest hit, and Dot Swap, right? Those were the two big hits to come out of Fractal, right? So,
with Fractal too, you have to remember though, like someone like Lynn can go to Lorenzo, who's the head of Unisat, and say, "Hey, we need op CTV, right, or whatever that one. We need this opcode put in," and it's actually possible. It's actually, you can actually upgrade and, enhance the chain to have things eventually, right? So, I mean, that's the best part about it. Yeah, it's centralized, but that's fine for now, for the sense of we can keep upgrading this chain until we get it to where it's the playground that we want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think about, so I had Aletheus, I always forget how to pronounce it. Aletheus Agora. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah. I met them in Nashville.
Yeah. So the prediction market folks, right. So it's very sort of embryonic right now. There's not a lot of activity. There is some activity, but not a lot of activity on it. But I like the founder a lot, and I like the vision, and I like the energy, and I feel like that prediction, that person, John, will crack some part of the prediction market on Bitcoin market. And we didn't specifically discuss Fractal and whether he would be rebuilding Aletheus Agora on Fractal, but my guess is he will, especially with, if sCrypt is going to really give him a lot of power that he doesn't have right now to write code faster. And it's all based on NUSD. So in order for a prediction market to work, it needs a stable coin. The entrants in the stable coin race on Fractal, on Cat, even I would say, our NUSD and Hermetica are kind of the only two entrants. Are you aware of any others?
That's really it. I'm kind of close with the guys at BitSmiley, and I actually asked them about it, and they said they're looking into it. And I asked another stablecoin. I don't want to mention their name, but they said they're also looking into it. So we'll see what happens. When someone says they're looking into it, they could just be looking at it, or they could actually be building. Right.
So there may be more entrants coming, but NUSD appears to be the front runner at the moment. As far we haven't seen. To be fair, we have not seen NUSD on Fractal in any form, BRC20 or Cat yet. But my guess is we'll see it on Cat. And I have a reason for saying that, which I'm not going to disclose, but I just have a feeling. So
I love it.
Being a little bit like Francis Toon uncensored. When was Francis ever censored? Was there ever a time where he was censored? So
he had a show a couple of years ago in 2017 where I think he was very censored. I think it was like a real show. He said he had a green screen and he was very calm and stuff. But now everyone loves personalities, right? They love the BitBoys of the world. No one really likes the there's some really good YouTubers, but they don't get the views that someone with actual personality get, right? So and that's what Francis does. So
yeah, Francis is absolutely a character. It's sort of like, if crypto were Disneyland, he'd be like the Mickey Mouse, right? You expect to see costume characters at Disneyland, and Francis is a costumed character, right? He's got that immediately recognizable voice, right? Like, you hear that voice, it doesn't belong to anyone else. That is Francis Toon. Absolutely.
Yeah. So. Mr. 100X, Mr. Alpha Alfonso himself, man.
100X.
Every time he gets 100X, he does a dance party, and it's phenomenal.
God bless that kid. Well, he must be 100Xing if he's got that. If he spent all that money on that studio, right? So good for him.
Yeah,
no, I like him, and he's providing quality. He's absolutely providing quality content, no doubt about it. I'm finding out stuff through him. Like I'll just admit it. I'm more the analysis guy. He's the breaking news guy. And he does an amazing job at it. So
100%. And like for someone like he basically took me under his wing a little bit. Cause he was like, I got a small channel, right? We get like, 1,000 views a day, something small. But he actually comes on my show. He helps me. He like puts that out there. Like I'm technically a competitor of his, right? In a way, cause there's only, like I think people that actually cover the space is me, you, Block Runner, and Francis. There's only 4 of us, but like same thing. Like it just seems like the space is like really amazing. We had shout outs from Block Runner. Francis really had me on his show. He comes on my show anytime I ask him to. It's phenomenal. And like just like you came on my show yesterday. I'm on your show today. It's an amazing little community we have.
We're not competitors. We're all rowing in the same direction, right? Like I'm not my advertisers. I'm not stealing advertisers from you. You're not stealing them from me, right? Like that's not what's happening. So we're not competing, not really. Like maybe down the road we'll compete, but not at the moment. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. But in that sense of it, it just felt really welcoming. Like he's really done a lot for me. So Francis, it's all love. It's all love with that guy.
He's a great dude. I completely agree. I'm going to get him on this show. He keeps threatening to come on my show, but he's like, dude, I'm so busy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but he will do it. I know. And he really is busy. I know he's doing 1,000 things. So, but we'll get him. We'll get Francis doing on here sooner or later. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's all I got, Shizzy. Once again, I just want to thank you for coming on such short notice.
Anytime. Like this is what I do. I'm either here or on my couch. So if you ever need,
if you combine them, then you would never leave.
Yeah, so. I mean, I might as well get a toilet on here, right? That's what I'm talking about.
There we go. That's a little bit Cartman of you, but we'll on that note, I think we'll end the show. So this has been Ash Rate. My name is Mark Jeffrey. We'll see you all next time.